Hello and welcome back to Koala Moon, a podcast of original children's bedtime stories and meditations designed to make bedtime a dream. Tonight we join Koko the koala as he sets off on another exciting adventure. This time he pays a visit to his cousin Kiki and her mother who live in a faraway place called Sleepy City. He soon realises that the city isn't all that different to his beloved forest, and he feels right at home. This is Koko Goes to Sleepy City by Gillian Rogerson. Deep in the heart of a faraway forest stood a cosy wooden cabin. Inside the cabin lived a family of koalas. The youngest member of the family was called Koko. Koko woke up extra early one sunny day and jumped out of bed. He was going on a special journey with his grandma, and he was eager to start his day. He pulled on his dressing gown and dashed downstairs and into the kitchen. He thought he would be the only one who was awake so early, but his grandma was already in the kitchen preparing porridge for breakfast. When she saw Koko, she opened her arms and he ran into her warm embrace. She kissed the top of his head and said, "I just couldn't sleep another minute longer. Not on such an exciting day." Koko looked up at his grandma. "I couldn't sleep another minute longer either. What time are we setting off? How long will it take us to get there? Tell me what Sleepy City is like again." Koko's grandma released him from her hug and answered his questions, just as she had done the previous day and the day before that. Koko grinned and spun around in glee. He said, "I can't wait to get there and see Kiki and her mum again. I haven't seen them in such a long time. I've missed them." Grandma nodded. "I've missed them too, but we'll be there before you know it, and you can have a good catch-up with your cousin again, and I'll have a good catch-up with Kiki's mum. Right, Koko? We need to start this day with a good breakfast. Can you help me get the breakfast ready, please? I can hear your grandpa and parents getting up, so let's make plenty for them too." Koko helped his grandma to make breakfast. His parents and grandpa soon joined them in the kitchen, and the family sat at the table and ate their delicious porridge. A short while later, Koko stood at the front door with his coat fastened and wearing his backpack. He called out for his grandma and asked if she was ready to go yet. "Here I am," Grandma said as she walked towards him, carrying her overnight bag. She gave him a big, excited smile and took his paw in hers. Koko and his grandma said goodbye to the other members of the family and left the cabin. They walked along the forest path and over to the waiting area where the sleepy coach would pick them up. They were just in time because a silver coach appeared on the road ahead at that very moment. It stopped in front of the two koalas and they climbed onto it. Koko settled down in a seat next to the window and gazed out at the familiar sights of Sleepy Forest. His grandma sat next to him and gave him a little bag of fruit to munch on for the journey. The coach set off. Butterflies of excitement danced in Koko's tummy. He'd never been to Sleepy City before, but his grandma had, and she'd told him lots of things about it. The city sounded like a very magical place. The coach drove them away from the forest and along a long winding road towards Sleepy City. As they travelled along, Koko began to see buildings at the side of the road with little gardens in front of them. He pressed his nose against the window to make sure he didn't miss seeing anything. Soon, larger buildings began to appear along with roads that veered off in different directions. He saw a school bus full of young animals turning down a side road towards a pastel-coloured building. Some of the animals on the bus saw Koko and waved to him. Koko grinned and waved back. With his nose still pressed against the window, Koko watched the changing landscape, and before he knew it, they had arrived at Sleepy City. The coach pulled into a large parking area and came to a stop. Koko and his grandma said thank you to the driver and alighted from the coach. The little koala turned slowly around and had his first good look at the city. There were many tall buildings that reached all the way to the sky. They were taller than the tallest tree in Sleepy Forest. Koko wondered if clouds sometimes rested on top of them. Along the pavements were a wide variety of shops, cafes and restaurants. There were food stalls on the street, and the delicious aroma of cooked food drifted towards Koko. Animals of many species walked along the streets, and the sound of their chatter mingled with the variety of noises coming from the vehicles on the road. Koko smiled. Everything was so bright and cheerful and wonderfully noisy. There was something else, too. There was a magical feeling in the air. Koko could feel it in his fur. "Hey, Koko!" a familiar voice called out. Koko's cousin Kiki, a kangaroo, hopped towards him, a huge grin on her face. Her mother, Koko's auntie, walked swiftly behind her with an equally big smile on her face, too. "Kiki, hi!" Koko beamed at his cousin, and the two of them hugged. Koko's grandma gave Kiki a hug and said, "My, you have grown so much since I last saw you." Koko's auntie gave him a hug and said, "And look at you, Koko. You've grown a lot too." Koko and Kiki grinned at each other. The grown-ups always said that to them. Kiki took Koko's paw and told him she had lots to show him in the city, but they were going back to the apartment where she lived first, so he could drop his backpack off. Koko nodded. He hadn't been to an apartment before and was eager to see it. Kiki hopped along the street, and it looked so much fun that Koko hopped along with her. He looked at the vehicles going past them. There was a lion driving a taxi and a porcupine driving an open-topped red car. Koko waved to them, and the drivers waved back. Koko's grandma and auntie walked behind the youngsters and chatted about their relatives and friends. Kiki asked Koko about his coach journey and what he'd seen on the way. Koko did his best to answer her, but there was so much going on in the city that he kept forgetting what he was saying. Kiki stopped in front of a tall silver building and told Koko it was where she lived. She took him through the entrance and they went through a revolving door together. Koko thought the door was a lot of fun, and once his grandma and auntie had come through it, he had 3 more turns going around in it. Kiki laughed and said she sometimes did that. The group headed over towards an elevator and went inside. Every new experience was exciting and magical to Koko, and he couldn't stop smiling. When he heard the low, joyful music coming from speakers inside the elevator, he broke into a dance and jigged from side to side. Kiki danced too. The elevator came to a stop, and the group walked out of it and along a carpeted corridor. A few moments later, they entered the apartment where Kiki and her mum lived. It was a cozy and welcoming place, and some of the furniture was similar to that in the koala's cabin. Koko went over to the big windows and looked out at the city. There were a lot of buildings, but there were also many trees and some parks too. Koko looked away from the window and went into the spare bedroom with his grandma. They quickly unpacked and had a freshen up. Then they were ready to explore the city. The group left the apartment and headed back to the streets. Kiki's mum thought the koalas might be hungry, so she took them to her favourite deli. When Koko saw the huge array of food that was on offer inside the deli, he looked up at his auntie and said he couldn't decide what to have and could she help him, please? Of course, his auntie replied. How about a eucalyptus leaf sandwich on seeded bread? I'm going to have that, along with some freshly squeezed mango juice. We can get some side dishes of sliced vegetables and dips as well. Koko's little tummy rumbled at the thought of the delicious food, and he said he would have that too. Grandma and Kiki decided on the same meal. The kind-faced badger behind the counter told them to have a seat and that she would bring the meal over to them. The 2 koalas and the 2 kangaroos took a seat at an outdoor table and sat in the warm sunshine. Koko smiled softly and watched the animals of Sleepy City go by. He saw some hamsters dressed in business suits hurrying along the pavement with small briefcases in their paws. Behind them were a couple of tigers pushing prams and chatting. The cubs inside the prams peeped out, saw Koko, and waved to him. Koko waved back. A group of giggling geese dressed in ballet outfits danced by. Kiki told Koko they were probably on their way to the school of dance further along the street. The food was brought to the table, and the family group fell silent as they ate their scrumptious meal. Koko thought his meal was made even more special because it was his first one in Sleepy City. When Koko had finished his meal, he patted his tummy and said he couldn't eat another thing. He soon changed his mind when his auntie asked if he could manage a small portion of ice cream. He immediately said yes, he could easily manage a portion of ice cream, thank you. Kiki took Koko back into the deli and ordered 4 pots of honey ice cream topped with strawberry sprinkles. Koko and his grandma enjoyed the ice cream immensely and agreed it was the best one they'd ever had. After the ice cream treat, they headed towards one of the city's parks. Along the way, Koko asked Kiki about her life in the city. Kiki told him about her friends and her school life, her hobbies and interests. Kiki then asked Koko about his life in Sleepy Forest. Kiki had been to the forest a few times before and had met some of his friends, including Camo the chameleon and Fudge the sloth. Koko said, "All my friends are doing great, and my family too. Oh, I've been on some magical adventures recently. I haven't told you about them yet." Kiki's eyes widened, and she asked for more details. Koko told his cousin about his magical adventures and all the fun he'd had. Kiki listened without saying a word. Her eyes grew wider and wider as she heard about the amazing journeys her cousin had been on. Koko smiled at Kiki and said, "Perhaps you'll have some magical adventures in Sleepy City soon. I can feel magic in the air here." Kiki hopped from side to side in joy and said, "Do you really think so? A magical adventure? Wow, that would be amazing." The group reached the park and went through the gates. Squirrels on skateboards and rabbits on roller skates zoomed past them and along the curved path that ran through the park. Beautiful trees lined the path, and the warm summer breeze whispered through the branches of them, causing the leaves to rustle. It was a sound Koko was familiar with, and a smile alighted on his face. He recognized all of the trees and also the plants that surrounded them. He felt like a little part of Sleepy Forest had set up home in the magical city. Kiki took her cousin over to the play area, and he was surprised to see how much equipment there was to play on. Kiki asked what he would like to do first. Koko looked at the area, gave her a grin, and asked if they could go on everything. His kangaroo cousin grinned back and said, "Of course." She took his paw, and they ran towards the swings. Kiki's mum and Koko's grandma sat on a bench and watched the youngsters at play. The time flew by as Koko and Kiki played on all the fun equipment. More young animals joined them, and Koko soon made friends with them. Koko told Kiki he was having a wonderful time. Kiki said she was too, and her time in the park had been made even more special because Koko was there with her. After they'd played on every piece of play equipment, Koko and Kiki went over to the bench and joined the grown-ups. Kiki's mum produced some cartons of orange juice from her bag and gave them to the thirsty young ones. After a while, the koalas and kangaroos decided to leave the park and explore the city a little more. As they headed towards the park gates, Koko spotted some elephants playing frisbee and a group of birds having a singing lesson near a bandstand. Being a friendly koala, he waved to them and was delighted when they waved back. and called out cheerful hellos. Kiki asked the koalas if they would like to visit Sleepy City Museum. They both said yes straight away. The little group walked along the busy streets and soon arrived at the museum. It was a large building with tall marble pillars that framed a wooden entrance door. Beautiful stained glass windows set into the stonework showed a variety of colourful scenes. Each one was of Sleepy City, but from a different time in history. The group went inside, and Koko was amazed at how high the ceilings were. Rays of sunlight slanted through the stained glass windows and cast colourful reflections of the historical scenes across the marble floor. Koko looked down at the colours beneath him as he slowly walked across the floor. He smiled and told Kiki he felt like he was walking through time as he stepped into one reflected image after another. Kiki said that was a lovely thought, and she slowly followed in Koko's footsteps. Kiki and her mum showed their visitors around the spectacular museum. There was a lot to see, and Koko became absorbed in the wonderful exhibits and artifacts which showed how the city had started as a small area of woodland, and then, over the years, had grown into a beautiful city. He smiled at some of the portraits of the early settlers. They looked very familiar to the families who lived in Sleepy Forest. When he pointed them out to his grandma, she said some of the earliest settlers had lived in Sleepy Forest for a while before setting up home in the city. They both agreed that it must have been a very exciting adventure for those early settlers. After the group had explored the museum, they headed to the cafe which was right next to the gift shop. Kiki asked her mum if she could go into the gift shop as she'd brought her pocket money and wanted to buy something special. Koko had brought his pocket money too and asked the same question. He was delighted when Kiki's mum said yes, they could go into the gift shop. The grown-ups took a seat at a table in the cafe, and when a penguin with a notepad walked over to them, they gave their order of sliced fruit and glasses of chilled water. Kiki and Koko went into the gift shop. The shelves were full of wonderful treats to buy: bookmarks, crayons and colouring books, scented candles, clothes, and many, many toys. Kiki told Koko that she'd been to the shop before and knew what she wanted to buy. It was something special that she didn't want him to see yet. She grinned and said, "I'll meet you at the counter later." She hopped over to the far side of the shop. Koko picked up a shopping basket and began to wander up and down the aisles. The shop was a treasure trove of gifts, and he wasn't sure what to buy. He wandered a little further and came across items that would be perfect for his family. He chose some wooden knitting needles for his dad, which had carved koalas on the ends of them, a tube of ukulele-shaped sweets for his granddad, a box of eucalyptus tea for his grandma, and, because his mum loved reading so much, he decided on a sparkling silver bookmark, which had a little picture of Sleepy City on it. He bought another bookmark for his auntie, because she loved reading too. Koko wanted to buy one more thing. He looked around the shop, and his gaze alighted on the ideal item. He looked left and right to see if Kiki was nearby. He was relieved to see she was standing at the counter with her back to him. Koko hurried over to the ideal item, picked the right size, and put it in his basket. He held the basket behind his back and walked over to the counter. Kiki was waiting for him with a paper bag in her hand. Koko said, "Could you close your eyes, please? I've got a surprise for you, and I don't want you to see it." Kiki dutifully closed her eyes. Koko quickly paid for the items using his pocket money. The shop assistant, a young gorilla, put them in a paper bag and wished Koko a great day. "Thank you. I hope you have a great day too," Koko replied with a big smile. Koko and Kiki joined the grown-ups at the table. Koko gave the bookmark to his auntie and the box of tea to his grandma to say thank you for such a wonderful day. His auntie and grandma smiled and said he really shouldn't have, but they were delighted with their gifts. Koko told Kiki he'd bought her a present. She chuckled and said she'd bought something for him too. They exchanged bags and took out the gifts. When the little kangaroo and the koala saw what the other one had bought for them, they burst into laughter. They had each bought identical t-shirts, which had pictures of the sun setting over Sleepy City on them. Koko and Kiki put their t-shirts on and smiled at each other. Koko put his paw over his mouth to cover up a yawn. Exploring the lovely city had made him tired. Kiki yawned too, and so did the grown-ups. Kiki's mum said it was time they headed back to the apartment. Everyone agreed. As they were all so tired, Kiki's mum hailed a taxi, and the 4 sleepy animals climbed into it and were taken back to the apartment building. The tired animals returned to the apartment, put their bags down, and flopped onto the sofa. Kiki's mum turned on the table lamps, and the living room was filled with a soft, cozy glow. Kiki's mum said she was too tired to cook, and after asking everyone what they would like to eat, she ordered a takeaway. Koko thought that a takeaway sounded like a most magical way to have hot, delicious food delivered right to your door. Whilst he waited for the food to be delivered, Koko had a soothing bubble bath in one of the bathrooms. His auntie used the same lavender bubble bath that his mum used, and as he lay in the scented water, the familiar fragrance made Koko feel all happy inside and right at home. After his bath, Koko got into his soft, fleecy pajamas and joined the others who were sitting on the large, comfy sofa in front of the fire. The dancing flames of the fire crackled quietly and mingled with the soft chatter coming from his family. A few moments later, the food arrived. Koko went to the door with his auntie and collected some warm boxes from the smiling wombat who was delivering them. The wombat wished them a good evening. Koko smiled at the wombat and replied, "Thank you. I think I will have a good evening. I've already had an amazing day. Good night. I hope you have wonderful dreams." The wombat smiled at the little koala and walked away. The meal was eaten right out of the boxes, something which delighted Koko to no end, and he couldn't stop smiling. Koko and Kiki didn't manage to eat all of their food because they were too tired. Kiki's mum said it didn't matter and that she would put the leftovers in the fridge for the following day. Koko glanced towards the huge windows at the front of the room with a faraway look in his eyes. His grandma knew he was thinking about their cozy cabin back in Sleepy Forest. She took Koko by the paw and led him over to the window. They looked out at the big city. Twinkling lights filled the windows of the city and flowed from the street lamps. It gave the city an enchanted feeling. A faint rumble of traffic could be heard. It had a soft, melodic sound, as though it was the city's lullaby. Koko yawned and leaned against his grandma. She picked him up, and Koko put his arms around her neck. His eyes felt so very tired and heavy. His grandma said, "Look at the sky, Koko. Can you see the moon and the stars? The same moon and stars are shining down on Sleepy Forest. I think your parents and Grandpa might be looking at the night sky right now and thinking about us." Koko smiled at the heartwarming thought. He gazed out of the window and said sleepily, "Good night, Sleepy Forest. Sweet dreams." Ooh. He yawned again. "Good night, Sleepy City. Sweet dreams." He closed his eyes and rested his head on his grandma's shoulder. His grandma whispered, "Would you like a bedtime story, Koko?" Koko didn't answer, for he was already fast asleep and dreaming about his big adventure in Sleepy City. Now we're floating into a deep and peaceful sleep. Feel how your muscles are relaxing. Your arms are heavy and your legs are too, as they loosen and release any tension remaining from the day. Feel how you let your body fall into the cozy warmth of your bed. Close your eyes. Let your eyelids be heavy. Breathe deeply. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out as you continue to breathe deeply, and as you keep feeling how your body becomes soft and heavy with sleep. Let your mind drift away. That is the wonderful secret about sleep. While your body rests, lying heavily in your bed, your mind is set free, like a bird taking flight from a branch and flying up and up and up into the air. Feel how your mind loosens now, like a balloon that has been untied from a fence, and floats up and up and up like a bird. Up and up and up it floats towards the sky until it reaches up into the clouds. Imagine that you have risen up high above the world and your head has poked up through the clouds. Then spread out all around you in the silvery moonlight, white fluffy clouds that look like cotton wool or marshmallows. They look so soft and squishy you can lie back on them and roll around in them. Try it now. Lie back in the soft cradle of the clouds. Feel how they swirl and wrap around your body, holding you gently in the world of sleep. Clouds come in all shapes and sizes. Some are big and fluffy, some are slender wisps. Some look like puffy mushrooms, and others look like paintbrush strokes that have been left on the dark sky. Let your body relax. Let your mind relax too. Let your mind float off into sleep. You are peaceful. You are safe. You are being held in the cozy warmth of sleep. With your eyes closed, let your mind drift up, up, up and away. In the world of dreams, you can go anywhere you like. You can float on blue oceans with ripples and tufts of waves. Or you can visit castles built in the sky with spiraling turrets and drawbridges over sparkling moats. Or you can wander into the peaceful woods where the birds are twittering and the trees are dense with dark green leaves. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out again as you fall more deeply into your cozy sleep. And with your eyes still closed, take a look around with your mind at where your dreams have taken you. When I fall asleep, I dream that I've gone to a world high up in the clouds. Sometimes the clouds are dappled silver from the moonlight. Sometimes they're soft pink and gold, reflecting the light of the twinkling stars. What form do your dreams take? Where does your mind go when you fall asleep? Maybe in your dreams there are flocks of white fluffy sheep huddling together on the green fields. Look at the mother ewe yawn widely before she tucks her little lambs beneath her woolly fleece. Or maybe you dream of a friendly dragon, curled up with his tail wrapped around him, a little trail of clouds puffing out of his nostrils. Look, the cloud dragon is smiling at us and waving. What a friendly dragon he is. Or maybe you dream of cute puppies lying on their backs, their tongues lolling out of their mouths, their eyes closing because they've had such a long day. They look tired, and there's their papa dog, fluffy and white, padding softly over to wish the puppies good night. Up here on the sea of clouds, you can be free. Feel how light you are, weightless, floating, drifting through sleep. Feel everything heavy from the day lift off you and drift away, taken away by currents until they disappear over the bank of clouds. Any worries you have been having, watch them float away. Anything that has been weighing on your mind during the daytime, now you can let them go and watch them drift away. Your worries are not you. You are not your worries. You can let them go. Watch them float away. Now you are light as air. You are as gentle as starlight. You are as soft as the clouds. Up in the sleepy sky, everything is weightless and peaceful. The clouds stretch out like a sea of tranquility. Close your eyes and feel the clouds wrap around you. Feel them bearing your body gently into the land of sleep. Feel your eyes close. Feel them rest heavily as your body relaxes into sleep. Feel your mind lighten. Feel it loosen and drift away, light as a feather, soft as the clouds. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. The world of clouds is waiting for you. Let yourself fall into the clouds' soft, warm hug. They are here to protect you. They are here to cushion you. They are here to hold you as you enjoy your deep and peaceful sleep. Sleep well, little one. Sleep well in the land of clouds. Feel how light you are. Feel how weightless, floating, drifting through sleep. Light as air, gentle as starlight, soft as clouds. Good night, little one.